Hey traders, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Vinco Ventures, ticker symbol BBIG, and I am very excited about this video. Finally, after talking about this stock for 4 months, this past Friday, we started to see that potential that we've been talking about get realized. We saw massive gains. The stock went up almost 100% during regular trading hours and then had another great run up in after hours, which leads to, a very promising outlook heading into tomorrow's trading session. So in this video, though, I'm going to go over two things for you guys. First off, I'm going to take a look at the valuation of Lomotif, this $5 billion valuation. Right now, I'm kind of seeing this as the main argument for the short side of Vinco Ventures, saying that this $5 billion valuation doesn't make sense because Zash and Vinco, they purchased the company for $80 million or $125 million. And as a result, it doesn't make sense for the value to increase that much in a short period of time. I'm going to give you the math that shows you why this does make sense and why, if anything, Lomotif is undervalued at that $5 billion valuation level. After that, I'm going to go into price targets. I'm going to explain what fair value price for BBIG is with dilution factored in and without dilution factored in. That's going to allow you guys to kind of set your own price targets accordingly. And finally, as always, we're going to get into the charts, breaking down key levels, key indicators, and more, so we best know how to play this stock heading into a very exciting week. So without any further ado, leave a thumbs up on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. Okay, so first off, like I said, I would just want to kind of go over why this $5 billion valuation for Lomotif makes sense, despite the fact that Vinco and Zash got one hell of a deal when they purchased it for $125 million only a few months ago. We kind of did this math on Twitter a couple months ago. It was actually a week or two before that $5 billion valuation came out. And doing that math kind of gave us a valuation of $8 billion. So I'm going to break that down for you guys, why I believe that the math checks out. So taking a look at TikTok, which is one of Lomotif's biggest competitors, Lomotif is trying to become the next TikTok. We see that TikTok gets 17 billion views per month. Meanwhile, Lomotif, as announced a couple months ago, generates 300 million views per month on a global basis. As a result, if we divide the 17 billion by 300 million, we find that TikTok currently gets 56 times more viewers per month than Lomotif. So we take that ratio and then we apply it to the actual values of the two companies. And what you see is that TikTok, or at least their parent company, ByteDance, is currently valued at $450 billion. And so if we divide that 450 billion TikTok valuation by 56, which was that ratio that we just calculated, well, all of a sudden we get a value for Lomotif at $8 billion. So if anything, right now, that $5 billion for valuation for Lomotif is undervalued. And that's exactly what Ted Farnsworth, the CEO of Zash, was saying on his interview with Benzinga just a couple of weeks ago. And I totally agree with him. If you run the numbers, just very simple numbers and simple calculations, you're going to arrive at the math that justifies why that valuation is so high and why for the past couple of months, we've been saying that BBIG is one of the most undervalued stocks on the market. But now that we are starting to finally realize some gains and start approaching what could be fair value, it's time to hop into the price targets and just give you all the calculations and information that you need to know in order to set your price targets and realize the trade that you want from this stock. So starting off by just going over some general info for the stock. The current shares outstanding for the company is 60 million, and there is an additional 60 million shares that can be diluted through warrant exercising and whatnot. So that is possible right now. Vinco Ventures is doing well. You saw their earnings report come out earlier in the week where they did say that they are very cash heavy. They have almost $80 million in cash. So, we don't know if all that dilution is going to happen anytime soon. And if not, that's a good thing for the shareholders because, dilution obviously is going to hurt the stock price. So there's a good chance that we might not see any dilution soon, but either way, we want to be prepared. So the current market cap without the dilution factored in is going to be multiplying the outstanding shares multiplied by the current stock price. It closed at 530 on Friday. So that's a $318 million market cap. But if you factor in dilution, well, then all of a sudden the shares outstanding goes to 120 million, and we're sitting at a $636 million market cap. But nevertheless, there could still be a lot of room to grow here, really depending on how much ownership Vinco receives of Lomotif. And that is a number that we are expected to find out this week. We are expecting to see the proxy info release this week, which is going to tell us much more details about the merger with Zash and how much Vinco shareholders are going to receive from this. However, through months of research and following along, it is assumed that Vinco is expected to receive 10 to 40% ownership of Lomotif, and that was valued at Gemini at $5 billion. So that means Vinco's ownership would thus be worth, at a minimum, it would be the $5 billion times the 10%, so $500 million. And at maximum, it would be $5 billion times the 40%. So it should be a $2 billion company if that's the case. And that's just on the Lomotif deal alone. That's not even factoring in all the other projects that Vinco is currently working on, including the ENFT project, which is very, very exciting on its own right. But we're just going to focus on Lomotif here. And so now let's take a look at our worst case scenario and best case scenario price targets with dilution and without dilution. So without dilution, this is where we currently stand. If we're not going to see any dilution soon, this is where fair value lies for the company. So if we were to only get 10% of Lomotif when that proxy info comes out, fair value price would be the 500 million fair value market cap divided by the current market cap, 318 million, times the current stock price. So that gives us a price target of 833 as a minimum fair value for the stock. So even at those after hours levels we closed at, we still see that there is more room to grow. And that's just on fair value alone. That's not even factoring in the fact that we are going to more than likely see a gamma squeeze and short squeeze unfold during the start of this week. But best case scenario, let's say we do get all 40% of Lomotif. Well, now all of a sudden fair value price, we're going to divide that $2 billion fair value market cap by the current market cap of 318 mil, and then multiply it by the current stock price. And all of a sudden, you see there is a lot more room to grow. And honestly, it's a toss-up. We don't know if it's going to be 10% or 40%. There's reason to believe, both of those numbers could be right. So ultimately, we just have to wait and see. But as you guys can see by the best case scenario, there is still so much more room to go here. And that's why we've been saying that BBIG is the most undervalued stock on the market. And now with dilution, even now you're going to see that there's still potentially a lot more room to grow, that even if they were to dilute all 60 million shares tomorrow, there's still potential that the stock would be undervalued. So worst case scenario, if we do factor in all the dilution, we would dilute that $500 million fair value market cap from the 10%. If Vinco were to only receive 10% of Lomotif, divide that by 636 million, which would be the market cap with all the dilution factored in, multiply that by the stock price, and all of a sudden, yes, we are down to 417. So that is the absolute worst case scenario with all the dilution factored in. We would probably see a drop in the price. That being said, if they did go tomorrow and announce that there was going to be 60 million in dilution, the stock price would probably drop pretty fast, meaning that you still probably would have a chance to, pick up some healthy dips in the $3 range or $2 range, and all of a sudden ride it all the way back up to fair value. But best case scenario, if we do factor in all the dilution, is we're going to divide that $2 billion market fair value market cap by the dilution factored market cap of 636 million, multiply that by the current share price, and we still see a lot of room to grow, almost 100% from the after hours levels, even with all the possible dilution factored in. So, I mean, this is absolutely crazy right now, just the amount of potential that is here. And that's why I personally am very, very excited and think that this stock has a lot more room to go. But now we need to hop into the charts and we need to figure out how to best play the stock moving forward. So let's get into it. I mean, just starting off by just recapping this insane price action. I mean, all week we were kind of grinding up. We got a little dip on kind of that earnings call. that really didn't tell us anything new. That dip didn't really make sense. And hopefully you took advantage of it. And then Friday comes around and boom, okay, the volume comes in, the momentum is there, and this stock just moved beautifully throughout the day. Okay. Had to test the VWAP here after going all the way from about low threes all the way to almost $5. Retested VWAP, bounced off of it, and made a move all the way to a high of almost $6 before kind of settling down in this range and then making obviously another big push in after hours, which will carry over with its momentum into pre-market tomorrow. But now taking a look at our indicators, this is very different from the last time we talked because now all the indicators have turned very, very, very bullish for the stock. So starting with our moving averages, we are looking at a 9-day EMA of 329 and a 21-day EMA of a 313. You can tell with that pink and purple line right there. And that means in the short term, this stock is looking very, very bullish as BBIG currently sits above both of those levels. But also on an intermediate and long term, we see that BBIG has reclaimed the 50-day moving average at 348, represented by this blue line, and also the 200-day moving average sitting right around 284, represented by this orange line. And so by the current stock price being well above those levels, we see that BBIG is not only very bullish in the short term, but it is bullish in the intermediate to long term as well. This is definitely very positive. The only thing to caution when it comes to the indicators is that obviously with all the momentum and volume that came in, this stock is currently, a little bit overextended on the buying side. That being said, it has definitely, moved a lot higher on the overextended side. Before we saw that squeeze in January where it went from about 120, 150 all the way to $10. So it's definitely happened before. It doesn't mean that just because it's overextended right now that, it has to cool off and consolidate before moving forward. I think actually with the squeeze potential and momentum that BBIG has garnered, that it more than likely will continue to get bought up and get a little more overextended. But that is something to keep your eye on. That's kind of the only bad thing that really comes out of these giant moves. If you want a stock to keep moving up, normally you want it to consolidate and kind of, move up slowly and steadily. However, in this case, with the short squeeze impending, it's a little bit different. So that's just something to keep in mind. That being said, let's take a look at our support and resistance levels. So like I said, this is going to be a little weird just given that, we don't really know where pre-market is going to take us tomorrow. Like right now, I have this charted out at 530, but the stock closed in the $7 range in after hours. But I will say one thing, just as far as these top support lines go, or resistance lines rather, looking at just the all-time high levels for Vinco Ventures, 940 is the 52-week high. There's a very good chance we open above that tomorrow. And if that were to happen, there's really no telling how high this stock can go. So that's the main level to watch out for. If we do get above that 940 level, we continue to have that volume and momentum. Well, then, we could just go for who knows how long. This could squeeze to 20, it could squeeze to 30, it could squeeze to 40. There's no telling. This is the main level that we want to break come Monday on the long side. But that being said, I have all my levels written out here. These are all support and resistance levels. So feel free to add those to your chart. But yeah, I just don't really know how to go over them individually because, this stock could open up tomorrow at $7. It could open up at $10, $15, $5. I really don't know. So that's all I got there as far as our key levels goes. One other thing to keep in mind when it comes to playing the technicals here is going to be our volume. Okay. Big reason we were able to make this giant push on Friday was this ridiculous volume that came in over almost 225 million shares trading hands on Friday alone. We would ideally like to see this number kind of continue into Monday and have another very, very high volume day if we want to see continuation on the chart and, continue to realize some massive gains. But if we do see a big drop off in volume, then it's kind of a sign that, momentum has been lost and it's time to consolidate and rebuild up and then maybe make another push in the future. So this is going to be a very, very big indicator that everybody should be keeping their eyes on. Finally, it always helps to check out iBorrowDesk, given that the short squeeze potential is very clearly here. And as you guys can see, last updated 20,000 shares available. It's a short. That is not a lot at all. That pretty much just tells you that the shorts on Vinco Ventures pretty much just doubled down on their positions, or there are new shorts that hopped in and are getting greedy. And as a result, short squeeze potential very much still alive. So that's another thing to keep your eye out on. If all of a sudden we see this number rise tremendously, that means that the shorts have covered their potential positions. And as a result, we don't really see much more short squeeze potential after that. But right now, short squeeze potential alive and well. And all that being said, let me know what you think happens this week. I'm always interested to hear your guys' feedback. If you have any questions for me, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. If you like this video, hit me with the thumbs up. If you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel. And aside from that, have a great rest of your night.